Hello, Internet! Gino, that Pinguino Greco, here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and it is time for the most somber and solemn of all podcasts every year. It is time for the Trenchies. It is time for the Deep Listens Game of the Year Awards. And to join me, to help figure out which of these games is the best games, I am joined, as always, by Pete Busby.
What's going on, everybody? I'm excited to discuss this. We'll laugh, we'll cry, we'll fight, but eventually we'll come to the answers. I got a good animal fact for this week's podcast, too.
Excellent.
I found what may be the greatest title I've ever seen for a biology article. So It's Profound Reversible Seasonal Changes of Individual Skull Size in a Mammal.
What?
I know. So there's this mammal, the red-toothed shrew, that as winter comes, it literally shrinks the size of its skull and brain by 20% as a means of conserving energy. And then when spring comes, it regrows its skull again. That's its winter strategy. Yeah, it shrinks its head.
How does it lose its bone?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. The brain, like, maybe I can get my head around, but the skull is nuts. But you'll have to read the article to find out.
Excellent.
That was a pun.
Which
get your head around it.
No, I
hate that.
I'm good though.
Damn it.
We'll count it.
That other voice you hear is the second expert in our panel, M. Palladino. Welcome again.
I would hardly call me an expert, but okay.
Your vote counts.
My vote counts. This is the only place where it really feels like that's true.
No gerrymandering on this podcast.
Yeah. This actually marks 1 year since I started the podcast.
It is.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, yeah. Last year I was like 2 episodes in when I jumped on, and then it was the game of the year. So I didn't really have any context, but now we're in this. I'm ready to pick.
Excellent. And that other voice you hear is honorary Deep Listens host for these purposes, my co-companion in Final Fantasy Hell. I'm joined. That is Chris ZombiePie Redacted. His vote also counts.
Yeah. Glad to finally be on a podcast where we don't painfully close read a Final Fantasy game.
Or play some garbage you picked.
Or play some wonderful, life-changing, revelatory games that I pick. Hey, everybody, just want to say, no tomfoolery from me, no singing, no reading verbatim from the Nam Compendium timeline. Just here to talk about games, characters, and the ones that made me cry, made me laugh, made me contemplate my own humanity.
Excellent.
Glad to be here.
So, in order to save time, let's just get into it. So, to start off, just a reminder, you can reach us at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. Email in. You can also support the show at patreon.com/deeplistens. If you do so, you'll gain access to our Discord, and we will have other rad things in the future that you can gain access to by supporting the show. So please do. The Game of the Year podcast. Every year we come, we have nominees in a variety of categories. Each of these nominees will be read off. We will then voice which games we think really we're willing to fight for. There are some cases where a game has been nominated because technically it fits a category, but no one feels strongly about it. So we will try to remove those from the list as quickly as we can. Then, when we've got the games that we care about, we will make our arguments for them. But this is a democracy. If you get a majority, that will finish the vote. That will finish which game wins the category. If we are deadlocked, which can happen now, with 2 and 2, we will have to find consensus.
See, Pete, it is possible.
We will need to find consensus.
I guess. I prefer overthrowing everyone else. But
that's fair.
We're just going to brawl.
See, centrism does have its moments.
And it's
going to put that out there.
It's in voting on podcasts, on Game of the Year podcast. That's where finding it and not having intense brawls over what wins actually matters all that much. So we will do that. Let's read off the categories. So the first category will be Game of the Year 2019. because we play it. If you have not listened to one of our Game of the Year podcasts before,
What are you doing?
We don't play every game that comes out in a year. We play a lot of older games, so we tend to start the show with a showstopper because in years past there's only been like 3 things in the category. This year we actually have a surprisingly deep Game of the Year list, but I think it's tradition at this point, so we should start it where it usually stops for other shows. Then Best Comedy, Best Horror, so these are kind of your genre ones, Best Drama, Best Action, Best Adventure. Then we get into the unique superlative categories like Best Character, Worst Character, Best Soundtrack, Prettiest Game, Best Performance/Voice Acting, Best Mechanic, Biggest Disrespect of Players' Time, that's a new one, Best Twist, Worst Game of the Year, 2019. And then we get into our unique categories for people. We've got Pete's John Paul Sartre Memorial Award for game that best expresses the ultimate futility of the human condition. My award, Gino's Platypus Award for the game that should not be. ZP's Help, I'm Trapped in Sysiphean Torment Award. We've got M's Sheeple Award for Most Widely Overstated and Overrated. And let me just move these 2 awards, the Biggest Indictment of Capitalism and Most Replayable Classic Awards. They should probably be before our independent awards. And then we've got our biggest one, Game of Our Year 2019, which is of all of the games we've played, which did we enjoy the most? All right. So without further ado, let's get to discussing. All right. So, Game of the Year 2019. The nominees are Piku Niku, Outer Wilds, Rad, Baba Is You, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, Disco Elysium, Katana Zero, and Pokemon Sword and Shield. Are there any games we feel we can lose immediately? I think Rad.
Rad. Take Rad off there.
Katana
Piku
Zero.
Niku, probably too.
Final Fantasy VIII.
I'm fine with all of those. Final Fantasy VIII, yep.
And then I think that means we go around the rotation. What do we all want to fight for?
Does anyone want to fight for Baba Is You? Is anyone?
I'm fine with letting Baba Is You
go.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
So I think quickly we've reduced it to Outer Wilds, Disco Elysium, and Pokemon Sword and Shield. Anyone have an argument for Outer Wilds as Game of the Year 2019?
That was my pick.
Yeah, it's mine too. I didn't play Pokemon Sword and Shield, but of these games, Outer Wilds is probably the only one I actually enjoyed.
I'm probably the more hardcore of the CRPG fans here. I've even written angry letters to Gino and the podcast about how I feel about CRPGs, but I would argue that Outer Wilds is the complete package, whereas Disco Elysium has its fun little moments, and it doesn't stick with you quite like Outer Wilds.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Between these two, it's between Outer Wilds and Pokemon Sword and Shield for me. Pokemon Sword and Shield is maybe the best Pokemon game. It is a very solid game. It's fun from start to finish. I never felt frustrated. It was just pure enjoyment for like 20 hours. And I bought that game on a weekend and finished it like the following week. And that just does not happen for me with video games anymore. Even the ones that I really enjoy, I tend to have a hard time playing them that long in a single, week-long session. But Pokemon Sword and Shield grabbed me. It improved on the Pokemon formula in noticeable ways. Was super enjoyable. All of the new Pokemon designs stood out. A lot of the specific reimaginings of Pokemon for the new region that they unlocked, those were all very cool to see. I enjoyed every moment I played with Sword and Shield. Outer Wilds was a game of a style I don't think I've really explored before. It was really impressive to play. This Clockwork World. Speaking of which, if I didn't say, that we're going to discuss spoilers for all of the games that we've played this year. So if you don't want spoilers, heads up. But Outer Wilds, seeing this Clockwork World, exploring it, learning about the history of this universe that you kind of have to traverse in little short 10-minute bursts. It was unlike any game I've ever played. And Pokemon Sword and Shield was like a game I played a dozen times, but the best version of it.
I think that's my argument for Outer Wilds, is I feel like I was intellectually challenged with Outer Wilds, and Outer Wilds even had something to share from a narrative perspective, not just a mechanical perspective, and it's more of a marriage of mechanics and storytelling, whereas Pokemon is just a really good, condensed Pokemon game.
Yep, and I think that's pretty much...
And I say that again as
right?
someone who probably of this group would rep Disco Elysium stronger, but I keep thinking about Outer Wilds, and I'm still trying to get that one freaking really hard achievement where you have to land on the platform that floats around the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I keep coming back to Outer Wilds. It's just that kind of special game where I feel motivated to come back to it.
Em, what about you? What's your stance?
So, Outer Wilds was the one game that my computer couldn't handle, and I never got a chance to play it.
Oh.
But everything that everyone has told me is that it's the best game of the year, possibly of the decade. I don't know if I would say that so strongly, but I hear it's amazing. My vote was for Pokemon Sword and Shield because I've put about 250 hours into it at this point.
And that game came out like a month ago?
Yes. You can do the math. It's
not great.
Don't do the math.
Please don't.
Please don't call me out like this. My vote's for Pokemon Sword and Shield. I think I'm going to get outvoted, though.
I could be swayed one way or the other. I think it's more of a matter of, did I enjoy the blockbuster kind of Marvel-esque movie experience of Sword and Shield? It's a thing that doesn't challenge me in any significant way. It calls back to things I liked in the past, and it's just expertly done. Team Yell, man.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I like Outer Wilds and it's kind of more art housey feel? And I think that I will probably replay Pokemon Sword and Shield before I replay Outer Wilds, but I think I'm going to show Outer Wilds to more people to kind of point out the
storytelling possibilities of video games. I feel like Outer Wilds is something that should maybe be put in that weird portfolio of games that are taught in game design things, circles.
Yeah. It's
Totally.
definitely already being talked about in my alma mater.
So I'm going to give my vote to Outer Wilds. It's close. I loved both of these games. Though Pokemon Sword and Shield, even though it didn't challenge me the way that Outer Wilds did, and it was just enjoyable throughout, I think I'm going to go with Outer Wilds, which means Outer Wilds wins with a vote of 3-1. Outer Wilds is Game of the Year 2019. Excellent. Congratulations, Outer Wilds.
I'll take it.
Best comedy. We've got Piku Niku, Butterfly Soup, Disco Elysium, Surgeon Simulator, Final Fantasy VIII Remaster, and Bionic Commando. Fuck.
All right, let's take out...
didn't we also play Hatoful Boyfriend?
Oh, that's right. We did play
Heaven?
Hatoful Boy. Yeah. Yep. We got to
It
put that
wasn't
in
on
there.
the list.
Dang it. Now
Is
that
the
you remind...
pigeons?
Yes.
That's where you have to help the pigeons live through the human apocalypse.
Right. Okay.
And the Chiron virus is now going to spread and kill all of humanity, and you have to stop it.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and I think we can probably get rid of Piku Niku, even though I enjoy it. It was enjoyable.
I feel like there's a difference between adorable and comedy. And
there was
that's
good comedy in there, too.
No, there's that, and I think like I had a similar reaction to Butterfly Soup, where I thought it was heartwarming, but I don't know if I'd equate that with like comedy.
Well, let's not lose Butterfly Soup.
Okay.
I think we should lose Surgeon Simulator, though.
What?
Really?
Really?
No?
Then I guess we're also going to
wow.
lose...
No. Is there anything else that we... Apparently everyone has strong feelings about everything except Piku Niku, maybe?
I mean, I laughed really hard when I played Surgeon Simulator. I don't know about you. Like, the voice acting in Surgeon Simulator, when you really mess up, it's something.
Does anyone want to keep Disco Elysium?
There's that time where that guy calls you a communist and you get to shoot him in the face.
I did put a body in a
You're
polar
welcome.
bear freezer.
Yep.
I like Measurehead just with how he writes and all. I don't like his philosophy and his general outlook towards life. I like that he's big and just wants to fight and yell racist things.
He's just a big racist.
As far as comedy goes, I don't think we could qualify Disco Elysium as a comedy. I think it just has funny moments.
I don't think it's a
Yeah,
comedy.
fine.
Okay. Bionic Commando, I found it hilarious.
I was going to make an argument for Bionic Commando. Like,
Okay.
the B movie, like the idea of, like, Mystery Science Theater 3000, but video games, like, Bionic Commando is almost
Yeah, but
that.
the part that makes Mystery Science Theater 3000 funny is the people riffing on the terrible
All right.
movies. Not
I've got a different hill I want to die on, so go ahead and cross out Bionic Commando.
Bionic Commando isn't in on the joke. That's the
No.
problem.
Mhm.
It's just dumb.
But then again, is something like Last Action Hero in on the joke?
I think that one was in on the joke, and that's why it's okay.
Okay.
Hottiful Boyfriend's Bad Boy Love Ending. It's fine. It's got some funny moments. But man, I don't
Remember when they put the diseased liver into your body and then it parasitized into your stomach and then you got the disease to kill all humans? You have to be put in cryogenic freeze in order
do.
to prevent you from...
No, I don't remember any of this.
It's
Don't
just
you remember
game
the
where
part
you
where...
date birds, right?
So-
where the math teacher turns out he got plastic surgery so he could work undercover to find out where his long-lost adopted brother was?
And then he stabs some people.
Still
What
yeah,
are you talking about?
yeah. The bird.
You need to see the Bad Boys Love ending. It is something.
You make
I
some
don't-
choices in the bird dating simulator, and when you do so,
Remember that time where your character gets dismembered and then someone mails all of her body parts to the different classrooms in the school?
it's
What
mask
the
off
fuck?
if you make a certain number of choices.
And
in the
then
game.
her torso is turned into a robot, and then
Yep.
you kill the
No,
robot.
her
and find out
brain.
you
It's her
killed-
brain.
You killed
Okay, no
the
one
person
else
that
is
you
voting for this, right?
Yeah, no, I'm crossing it out.
Ah,
I'm crossing it out. I won't vote for it. So we've got Butterfly Soup, Surgeon Simulator, and Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. Again, I don't know that Final Fantasy VIII is in on the joke, but there are a lot of great moments. Selphie asking Squall if he'll join the garden restoration party, and him just not answering, and her just walking away. Quistis begging Squall for his affections, and him telling her, hey, go talk to a wall.
then
Squall
from-
saying, I will not be remembered in the past tense. The concert. All of these things are great, but I don't know. I don't think that it's the best comedy.
Then from Hell's Heart, I stab at thee. I'm going to vote for Surgeon Simulator.
Moby Dick. That was a Moby Dick reference.
Butterfly Soup, though?
It's best comedy. I think that Butterfly Soup is the better story. It's heartwarming. It's touching. But I definitely laughed a lot more when I played Surgeon Simulator. The emotional poignancy is also something to consider of Butterfly Soup. Whereas with Surgeon Simulator, just the fact that that game controls the way it does is it's very special. It's almost designed in every possible way to be funny. It has one target that it aims for, and it hit that target perfectly.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually.
Am I the only person who thought Butterfly Soup? If so,
Yeah, I didn't.
okay. Well, I just want to say Butterfly Soup has a lot of great jokes. There's the characters who join your baseball team who all have fake anime names because they watch anime,
Yeah.
and you never learn their real names. There's the Akarsha, who is always very funny, always telling good one-liners and such.
We'll get to it, Karsha.
Yeah. Junseo, threatening people with knives constantly, always great. But I'm fine with letting Butterfly Soup come in second. Surgeon Simulator is our best comedy of 2019.
The only award
See?
that was nominated
You're
for.
laughing as you say it, Gino. Therefore, it deserves this award.
You know, you're not wrong. Okay, next up, best horror. We've got Fatal Frame, Return of the Obra Dinn, Magic Pendulum. Who put that?
Gino!
I didn't put that there. Hotiful Boyfriend's... I actually didn't. Hotiful Boyfriend's Bad Boys Love Ending, Outer Wilds, Kingdom Hearts 3. Who put that there?
I didn't, but I would have.
Bionic Commando and Katana Zero. Katana Zero doesn't belong here. Neither does Kingdom Hearts 3, even though it says terrible things about our society.
This seems like a two-horse race between Fatal Frame and Obra Dinn.
Yeah.
Those were the only real horror games that we played this year.
The Bad Boy Love Ending has some horror elements, but I don't think it is truly a horror game.
And I plan to throw my lot with Obra Dinn just because I respect the atmospheric horror. It's kind of like body traditional horror versus that atmospheric, almost like Kubrick-esque sense of isolation, loneliness, and like relying more on atmosphere than, screams.
Yeah, but Fatal Frame also operates in that same space. It's got a lot of ghosts just kind of being ambient around you and being creepy. But I think that the Return of the Obra Dinn managing to take a game where there is actually no threat to you at any point, but just because of the game's aesthetic and some of the horrible things you see, you feel as though you could be threatened at any time, despite the fact that you never are. And I think that that's a triumph. Fatal Frame oftentimes actually just dives straight into the monster closet. And
also, it's going to come up later, but the parts where Fatal Frame cannot execute really undoes a lot of the goodwill and a lot of the good work that it has. I'm sorry, I cannot take that game seriously when I have to listen to some of the characters speak. Yeah. It's just, it's discordant in a lot of ways.
And when you have to fight the same ghost for the 5th time because the camera and controlling it is terrible, it really undoes some of the horror elements. So do we have consensus then?
Obra Dinn for the win.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's the play.
Mm-hmm.
Second place, Fatal Frame. First place, Return of the Obra Dinn. Best drama. Coming up next, we've got Papa EO.
Oh, this is going to be a hard one.
Yeah. Grease. Or Grease?
Grease. Grisella. Remember I told you about this. I literally wrote an email about how to pronounce that.
Celeste. Return of the Obra Dinn. Outer Wilds. Unravel 2. Nier Automata. Life is Strange, Before the Storm, and Katana Zero. Of all of these, the only one I could 100% just lose right now is Katana Zero.
Yeah. I feel like, this is going to be, this is rough. This is probably the hardest category.
Don't we all hate Nier?
But are we judging Nier? Yeah, no, but like that
it's
ending
not most drama.
It deserves to be in this category for that ending.
I know, but it's going to lose.
It's going to lose. Go ahead and cross it out. But even then, it deserves to be in this category.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of dramatic moments in Nier Automata. It's just...
Remember when you're that little robot trying to help your little brother?
I do remember that, but I also remember all these other games.
You remember how you had to do that like 2 or 3 times, especially if you die on accident?
I remember all of these things. But
all right, cross it out.
I could forget a lot of those things. Honestly.
All right, let's take out the other weak ones. I almost want to say Celeste is a weak one in this category because I feel like the metaphor of conquering your depression and anxiety, it ends up being a little weak in the grand scheme of things. Like the idea that it can be conquered is kind of antithetical of what it's trying to communicate. Maybe that makes sense.
I give you that. I mean, it's not going to be Gree, so yeah, cross it off.
I liked Celeste a lot, fighting your shadow self. That old man's ghost who's trapped in his shitty hotel, constantly worried about attracting guests.
Then what were you going to propose we take out first? Next, I should say.
Life is Strange. Oh no, it's Before the Storm. It's not just Farewell. It's not Farewell. Yeah. Shit. Unravel 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can drop it.
It's good, but it's got barely any story, and all the drama
is secondary.
I don't know if I don't know if Outer Wilds should be in this category. It's a good twist. It's a goddamn good twist, but drama?
Yeah, I think it probably fits better in Best Adventure than in Best Drama.
Okay, so
it's
let's
a tragedy.
I mean,
we don't have a Best Tragedy category, and Outer Wilds would probably win that.
And also, I'm comparing it with the other games here. Like, I don't imagine Outer Wilds beating Gris, to just reiterate what Pete said, or Papa EO and Yo.
Man, but it's so.
Because I'm stuck between Papa and Yo and Gris. Those are my two. I'll just put it out there. Those are the two that I'm thinking of voting for.
Those are your two?
Yeah.
Shit.
Oof. My two are Return of the Obra Dinn and Life is Strange Before the Storm.
I respect it. I can't.
Shit.
Finding out your dad is an alcoholic and the beast has to be conquered is a real big thing, man. I don't know. That's hard.
It is, but it's.
And then
I could literally vote for any of these. I love all of them.
When you find out what you're trying to actually accomplish in Gris, that's a big thing.
Pete,
I don't know. Pete,
you're
where are you
on Gris?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is maybe the hardest category we're going to have all night. I mean, any other year, Obra Dinn, Papa EO, they could all win. But just something about Gris, it just, I don't know, it stuck with me in a way that, like, honestly, until ZP just repeated it, I sort of forgot what Papa EO was even about. Which, I mean, maybe that says more about me than the game, but I'm just going to have to throw my weight behind Gris.
Yeah, I can get with Gris because it's got this unified purpose. It's basically just getting over the loss of a loved one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Told a dozen different ways in all these different levels, but the singularity of purpose and vision between the soundtrack, the gorgeous visuals, and the limited kind of narrative moments that existed, the limited cutscenes they use, it blended together into a singular experience in a way that some of these other games didn't. It's impressive that it was able to do that largely without dialogue. It manages to communicate loss and acceptance of tragedy in a way that I don't know if these other games did, as much as I enjoy all of them. Like Papa EO, it's a great metaphor. Like that story of a child being abused by his alcoholic father, that like, and the escape, like the element of this fictional world that he's escaping to. Celeste, I don't think I want on this list anymore. Are people okay with that?
Yeah.
It's really good, but and Outer Wilds also, like, it's maybe the most tragic game of all of these.
Finding out the world is dead.
Finding out the world is dead, and the loop that you've been stuck in was actually not set into motion right when you...
It's important to note that Outer Wilds was inspired by an episode of Star Trek.
That's fine. Who cares what it was inspired by?
Or that Arthur C. Clarke story.
Yeah, well, they were both inspired by that, but The Inner Light.
Yeah, so does anyone have any strong feelings on, like, Return of the Obra Dinn as best drama?
I mean, it's shocking. It's certainly shocking when you find out what has happened on that boat, but I don't know if it punches to the, like, emotional heights of Greece.
It just seems a little too silly. Like, there are crab people and a kraken and, like, mermaids and junk. Like, it's interesting. It's a good mystery. And, like, if you look at it as, like, oh my god, all these people are dead, maybe it's a drama. But when you start to add crab monsters, you sort of lose it, you know?
I also think it's better fit for a different category that is coming up soon.
Sure.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I'm okay with that. So, Outer Wilds for best drama. I mean, we've gone back and forth on it.
All right. I'm willing to drop my stance on Papa EO. in favor of this being Grease, Outer Wilds, and Life is Strange.
Mm.
Although, personally, I think that inner drama, that inner fight, meant more to me than some of the other games in this category. But I think I'm the only one who's fighting for Papa EO.
I am a free agent in this. I like all of these games and would be fine with any of them winning. I think they are all excellent and stand head and shoulders above what we usually have in Best Drama.
So I think my pick so far is Papa EO, Pete's pick is Gree, and Em, I think you said your pick is Life is Strange?
Yeah.
So we're all over the place. So, Gino, basically, you're the kingmaker.
Shit. Okay, so Papa EO, it's an excellent story of a young boy overcoming his father's alcoholism and kind of dealing with it. And the way that it tells it through metaphor, both visual metaphor and mechanical metaphor, I think is striking. Gree, I already mentioned, like it pulls together every element of its gameplay, its aesthetic, its music to create one journey through someone's acceptance of a death. Outer Wilds, it's the tragedy of an entire civilization kind of coming to realize the peak of knowledge and having their entire existence snuffed out moments before they can witness that goal be achieved. And you kind of learn of their fates over and over and over again, repeating over and over, kind of seeing this clockwork world that they've created play out in front of you. And Life is Strange Before the Storm shows the just beautiful development of a friendship between these two central characters, Amber and Chloe. Rachel Amber, sorry. And seeing them start as strangers and become friends and lovers, and it makes all of Life is Strange make sense. And that's hard to do with a prequel without it being too cute. These are tough choices. I think that out of these, I'm most inclined to lose Papa EO for the following reasons. I think that of each of these games, though the metaphor for Papa EO is solid both in gameplay and visual design, that game feels much more dated as a game than these other games.
It's definitely the roughest game to like go back to and play. I mean,
yes, and that's not to say that just because it's old. Like there are just some elements of its design that feel like a fairly generic game with excellent level design and aesthetic choices.
Yeah.
Like the moments where you're manipulating this favela and moving around these buildings and they're coming alive and moving around you, it looks gorgeous, but there's just a little bit more polish that would have been nice. And it's a shame. Like, I'm nitpicking. All of these could win. I think Papa EO is probably the one I am most inclined to lose of these three.
Okay.
Then we've got Gree, Outer Wilds, Life is Strange.
Then I would say I would change my vote to Gree.
Okay. No one is voting for Outer Wilds, right? No one's actually saying that for Best Drama?
No, I mean, I'm still with Gray.
No one affirmatively. So I'm okay with losing it just because we don't have a ton of preference there. Life is Strange Before the Storm. So the only thing I would say is Life is Strange won our Best Drama, actually, in, I think, 2017. How much is Life is Strange Before the Storm piggybacking on how good Life is Strange was?
I guess that's the one ding against it. I feel like Gree is a new experience, and as a result, that felt like a more memorable experience, whereas Life is Strange Before the Storm was just a really interesting continuation of something that I remember a few years ago.
Because in my memory, Chloe, while it fleshes out her character, a lot of what made Life is Strange Before the Storm so poignant for me was seeing how it just set up everything in Life is Strange. How it made this relationship that's only kind of spoken about in short terms and kind of the big reveals in the main game, that you understand that this character, that Rachel Amber means something to Chloe, but you don't know why, really, because you're an outside viewer. It gave so much more weight to a game that I already loved. And so that made me really enjoy Life is Strange Before the Storm, but I don't think it holds up on its own in the way that Gree does.
I would agree with that.
So I would say that Life is Strange Before the Storm is the runner-up here, but with a strong caveat: if you play Life is Strange and then Life is Strange Before the Storm, I think you might have a greater sum of its parts experience. Like, that's a great story just to read as like this young adult fiction. But Gree is... was it the first game we played this year? It was one of the first games we played this year. And
No. The first game you all played was Bionic Commando, because me started the year with a showstopper.
Fuck. But I think Gree stuck with all of us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So best drama, Gree. It's a tough one. Man, pour one out for all of those who fell before.
That was a very dramatic best drama choice.
Perfect. Next up, we've got Best Action. The nominees are Bionic Commando, Celeste, Nier Automata, Final Fantasy XII, Mega Man Battle Network 3, Unravel 2, and Katana Zero.
Okay, so first, I feel like we have this fight every single year whenever we have the best action category. Are we defining best action as in best gameplay or action as a genre?
Both.
Oh, God. See, this is always the hard...
Neither.
Damn
this
it.
is always why this category is weird for me, is like, I don't know... Because remember, there was that year where we gave it to PUBG.
Yeah. That was last year, wasn't it?
2 years ago, I think.
No, Cuphead. Yeah.
Cuphead.
No, Cuphead got it last year, and then Hyper Light Drifter the year before.
Oh, yeah.
And then...
PUBG won Best Mechanic. Okay, whatever. But I always have a hard time with this category because I don't know whether to interpret it as the game with the mechanics that I enjoyed the most, or is action a genre? Like action movies. Like
that's what I was thinking when it comes to like the popcorn, because sometimes we get games that I think are great popcorn storylines, but are not.
And I am 100% voting for Bionic Commando. It's the popcorn film of video games. How can you not vote for it?
I mean, this is kind of a weak category.
It is.
Yeah, we didn't. We there weren't a lot of action games.
I honestly might vote for Bionic Commando too.
I actually might as well.
No.
I mean, Celeste.
Are we unanimous?
Celeste. I think Celeste has a
but
better...
I don't think of Celeste as like... I think of Celeste as like a really tough platformer, so much so that I sometimes forget about its story, hence why I didn't feel motivated to pick it for Best Drama, just because I feel like I need to swear at the screen so much because it kicks my ass.
So let's just get rid of Unravel 2 and Katana Zero.
Yep.
Because I don't think any of us... we like both of those games, but I don't think enough to give them awards. I don't think Final Fantasy XII...
I would take Final Fantasy XII over Nier Automata.
See, I don't like Nier Automata. However...
No one does.
I think in this category, for Best Action, it sure is a dumb anime.
It's very strong in both the
Well,
action,
if we're going for
gameplay.
dumb anime, then you might as well vote for Mega Man Battle Network, because that's a
That
dumb
raises... You see where I was going with this.
It's dumb anime, and it's a good game?
And it's a good game.
Yeah.
Jack Me and Lan.
I'm still voting for Bionic Commando.
I'm
Really?
also voting for Bionic Commando, because I want my dumb action hero, like, jingoistic, dumb, It's like The Last Action Hero, but a video game.
Join me with Battle Network.
I can't allow this. Mega Man Battle Network 3, please.
We are at an impasse. All right, let me give you some reasons not to go with Bionic Commando. His wife is his arm.
I see nothing wrong. That was in my pro category. That was on
that's
my...
the first reason I'm going to.
Fuck.
Remember that part where there's all this dust from a storm, and then he turns to Magdalene and says, "That's people you're breathing."
I do remember that.
Remember the evil Nazi robot guy, and he has a really dumb evil Nazi guy voice, but he's not a Nazi.
I do remember, and I
remember when
that
you
lady with her
headbutt
legs.
Super Joe? You headbutt Super Joe from a
Bulletproof, like hyperglass.
Bulletproof hyperglass, like teleportation tube.
I just don't
about
think
Super Joseph.
I just don't think an action game is one where like part of your job is to convince a little boy to have life-saving surgery. Like
Fair.
you had
But remember
hearts on the beach with a small child in a wheelchair. Like, shouldn't happen in an action game.
But there's a tournament. You need to go and win this tournament so you can win a contest. You've got people trapped in bubbles that if you don't defeat this evil bad guy, it will detonate your friends to death.
Yeah.
You've got a guy who's trying to trick you into burning your father alive.
Is there anyone in that game that has culturally insensitive, if not offensive, dreadlocks?
That's a great point.
Actually, in a different Mega Man Battle Network, there was.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's 4 or 5.
It's a different Battle Network game, but there is a guy with a cowboy hat for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Who has a very Japanese name.
So, Dr. Wily, he's trying to destroy
Remember
all of these...
all those times when random enemies would call you motherfucker for no reason in particular?
I do remember that. Remember when Dr. Wily unleashes some sort of net virus that it's all fleshy and looks terrifying?
Remember when there was that character sniper guy who pops in for 2 scenes and then nothing happens? Kind of like an actual action movie?
They thought there'd be a sequel and then it never came?
Like an actual movie?
Commando is hilarious. Alright, look, I still like Bionic Commando better, but like I don't really care about it. Like if we want to consign it to the dustbin of history, that's fine with me.
I think that there's other categories for Bionic Commando. I think it has its time coming.
Let's give Bionic Commando the runner-up, and then Mega Man Battle Network wins basically award for anime. I want to point out
it is the most anime.
No. Nier Automata is the most anime.
Nier Automata is the most anime, but Mega Man Battle Network is the best anime.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, Best Adventure. We've got Celeste, Mega Man Battle Network 3, Disco Elysium, Gree, Golden Sun: The Lost Age, Final Fantasy XII, Final Fantasy VIII, Unravel 2, Pokemon Sword Shield, and Outer Wilds.
Allow me to just ask, why is there any game on this list besides Golden Sun: The Lost Age?
Good question.
Are you actually going to vote for Golden Sun?
I'm going
to vote twice for Golden Sun.
I'm going to remove Unravel 2. I'm going to... That's all that I can remove safely, I think.
You can, yeah, this is a weird year. Gino and I don't have a Final Fantasy game to wrap.
Yeah, because I think 8...
We've already had this fight, so I feel like let's disqualify 8. And... I don't know if you should eliminate 12 because the adventure part is the best part of Final Fantasy 12, and it might be the most fully realized world that Square has made in 20 years. Yes, Sam, we have not played 14 yet, so I'm not discounting.
We don't know, but it ain't 13. We know that
it's not 13. It's a fully realized world with some really, really heavy moments.
And some cool characters, and you travel that world. You truly go on a long adventure. You start out as a little sewer rat who you literally kill rats in a sewer for money, and then by the end of it, you're taking on some sort of ancient deity who's fused with some sort of evil dictator.
So
and it has probably
any Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
The best part of 12 is the fact that it has villains that actually have motivations and reasons for being and existing. It's like an aberration of modern era Square where the villain is kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
Like I felt like the villains and that whole B plot with like Larsa and the judges was even better than the actual mainline story in a lot of ways.
I agree. And the traveling between all these different parts of Ivalice is super cool. Like seeing all these different races and seeing all the different locations. The monsters are large and intimidating. Golden Sun: The Lost Age, that game's fine. Right? You
Yeah.
don't actually. I know Pete. Pete, I know you love it.
I do. I have a weak spot in my heart for it.
Yeah.
I might be
I have-
biased.
But
I have
my
very
problem with
strong nostalgia
Golden
for
Sun: The
people.
Lost Age, let me just point this out. As someone who played that game, not having played the first game, that game was weird, and it didn't make sense.
Everyone
And
did that.
I
Yeah, I
deeply
don't think
regret
anybody
playing
played
it
the first
that way.
Golden
You play the second one because it doesn't have a 2 on it, and then you go back and you play the first one. That's how everyone experienced
That's
it.
all these people are.
A great Deep Listens podcast tradition. Let's play the second game, not the first game.
Just a question here. Are we prepared to discount Pokemon Sword Shield? Because I'm not.
I didn't play it. I can't help you.
Damn it. Those Pokemon are huge.
Yeah, they're huge, but they've de-emphasized the actual exploration aspect of Pokemon in that game to where it's so streamlined that the kind of like overworld navigating the world, the sense of progression is so short in Pokemon Sword Shield that it's hard to call it an adventure anymore.
Okay, I'm just going to cards on the table. I want Outer Wilds to win this,
That's fair.
personally. My rationale is many of the things we said about why it should win Best Drama, many of them are actually contained in you adventuring to all of these different planets, figuring out their specific mechanics, their specific layout, learning about the people that live there, and going on these kind of heart-stopping sub-journeys that you have to participate in over and over and over again as you learn the different mechanics of this universe. And then it culminates in one perfect run that is just white knuckle. Even though you know that you might be able to do it over, I find that at least the first time you try to attempt to beat Outer Wilds, it is just a completely unique experience of all these adventures.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said about Nier Automata.
It just seems weird to give, like, I have no problem with Outer Wilds winning, but it seems slightly weird to give Best Adventure to a game that unfolds in like 15-minute chunks. So like the Odyssey is a story of a man taking 10 years to get home. Like there's the reason like the Epic of Gilgamesh is an epic and not, you know, the brief moment in Gilgamesh's life. Like I get that they repeat and they stack up, but at the heart of the thing, you're still experiencing 15 minutes of somebody's life.
It's 15 minutes, but each of those minutes you're carrying over the knowledge that you've gained from the 15 minutes before. So for the person who's playing, even though the bursts are 15 minutes, it's a cohesive narrative, several cohesive narratives that you have to chase down each and every one of them.
So you're talking about the meta adventure of the player experience?
I mean, it has to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
it
what
could be the adventure of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the character also experiences it as the player does. And even it's interesting to talk to some of the different characters who are also stuck in the loop with you, because they'll also start to become conscious of certain things in the world. But, like, there's nothing quite like discovering some of the specific locations that, like, when you find the quantum moon and learn it exists, first when you learn it exists and then when you learn how to deal with it, there's nothing quite like that in any of these other games. And I think that sense of wonder that's contained in that Clockwork universe just stands out to me. If there was anything about Outer Wilds that jumped out to me, it was the sense of exploration. And I think that that's what Best Adventure is really about, that journey.
For similar reasons, I'll stop messing around. My vote is actually for Disco Elysium. I prefer the style of that old school CRPG as a means of exploring a world. I like the fact that every person, everything that you interact with, it feels alive and fully fleshed out, to where even in this kind of post-apocalyptic world, there's some form of vibrancy and attempt to make do with what you got. And in terms of an adventure, it feels like something in order to you can approach that game as any number of characters and you'll still get different responses from the NPCs. And that's always been an appeal for me for CRPGs, that kind of like make with it however you want, and that sandboxy feel of you role play organically in the environment, you role play organically in the world, and the game responds accordingly. So yeah, that's where I stand.
Okay. So I think we can safely lose Celeste, Mega Man Battle Network 3 then?
Yep.
No one seems...
No, yeah, they're gone.
Agree? Same?
Yeah, we picked it for a different category.
Pokemon Sword Shield?
Like I say, I feel like the adventure aspects of that game have been so de-emphasized that it's kind of an afterthought. And then now you can cross out Final Fantasy 12. I'm not going to fight on that one.
Okay, so we've got Disco Elysium, Golden Sun: The Lost Age, and Outer Wilds.
I think we got a split vote here.
I'm willing to go with Outer Wilds over Disco Elysium. There's nothing particularly adventurous about it.
I was going to switch to Disco Elysium.
Play
Outer Wilds, so now we got the same problem.
Okay, so
Pete,
now let's see.
I hate to do this to you, but I'm gonna pander. Did you watch the Video Game Awards?
No.
Did you see the part where the developers of Disco Elysium thanked the founders of communism in front of their...
So I saw no parts of it.
The creators of Disco Elysium literally went on this corporate stage and said, "We'd like to thank the founders of communism. Thank you and good night," and then walked off stage. It was great.
That's pretty good. I do like that.
However, have you considered that Outer Wilds has just this exceptional story that unfolds as you adventure to all these different planets? And they've all got these unique layouts that you need to
I think, Gino, it comes down to the difference of top-down versus bottom-up adventuring, and I've always preferred the bottom-up style where the adventuring comes from the player and that kind of old-school D&D format of I'm the one who creates the adventure rather than being guided like a marionette. That's not to say that Outer Wilds is bad, but my personal preference has always been the game responds to the player's input, and I'm the one with the agency that guides the best possible adventure or a different approach to the same adventure, and it's new, and it feels new.
You know what? I'm going to disregard everything Gino said.
No!
And return to my argument that adventures can't unfold in 15-minute chunks, even if they stack. And I'm going to go with Disco Elysium.
No!
Damn, got second.
All right.
Democracy has spoken.
Damn it. Second place, Outer Wilds. First place, Disco Elysium. Ugh.
You should also watch that game awards moment. It's hilarious. Oh my god.
Next up, we've got our best character category. First,
Jesus Christ. Someone
Disco
had
Elysium.
a fun time with this.
Akarsha in Butterfly Soup. What'd you say, Pete?
I don't think we can. This category is too long to chop it down. I think we just need to read them all and then say which one each of us picks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Akarsha, Butterfly Soup, Baba is you, The Beast, Piku Niku, Madeline from Celeste, Sora from Kingdom Hearts, The Yarnies, Unravel 2, Chloe Price, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Rachel Amber, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Minwoo, Final Fantasy 2,
Chino,
Pixelated Sid, Final Fantasy 8 Remaster,
no.
Frank the Benevolent Drug Dealer, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Balthier, Final Fantasy 12, Ash, Final Fantasy 12, Hop, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Team Yell, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and Piers, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Oh boy.
All right, who wants to start? Who's your character?
I guess I'll go first. I don't recognize a lot of the names on this list because they came from Final Fantasy games and Pokemon.
Let me just add Mono.
God damn it.
Magic.
So to prevent
Angel.
us from doubling up, I'm pretty sure a Life is Strange character has already won Chloe has already won, and she won 2 years ago. So I want that for the record to be out there.
You don't want her to win again?
No.
She probably shouldn't. I mean, she gets a 2-game boost.
Let's put Zoe. Magic Pendulum.
Stop
We're
adding.
adding more characters.
I'm picking
to
the
already
beast.
full.
Because he moves the best.
That's a good reason. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah,
It's like
he has the best
when
movement.
you play
He's the
Super
wiggliest.
Mario Bros. 2, it's pick the princess. She's the best character because she floats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with Ash from Final Fantasy XII. She's probably one of my favorite characters in Final Fantasy history. And I say that as someone who reps Final Fantasy X real hard. I'm split between her and Balthier, but Ash has so many good lines, Gino. Like, even you admit that she's probably one of the more fully realized primary characters of a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, she's super serious.
She has lines of dialogue that are actually really good. Probably one of
the leading man. He says it all the time.
He's fun.
He is fun. He's your James Bond character. So let's just go ahead. Disco Elysium,
No.
That's gone. Baba's you. Get out of here. Madeline, you're cool, but no thanks.
Sora, no.
Kingdom Hearts, double fuck you.
Don't be mean to Sora.
The Yarnies, get out of here. Minwoo, you're the best of the guest characters, but get out of here. Pixelated Sid, I just want to call out, hey, they didn't fix Sid's character model multiple times, and it's weird. And it looks super messed up when you look at it. Frank, the benevolent drug dealer, you are not the best Life is Strange
His
character.
dog is cooler than him anyway.
Balthier, get out of here. Hop, go fuck yourself.
What?
He's so...
You're going to spare Team Yell, but you're going to get rid of Hop.
How can you have a whole team for best character?
Let
Exactly.
me tell you
They're
about Team
interchangeable.
Yell.
They're
So
like literally?
Yeah, they're great.
Wow.
So Team
Okay.
Yell, they are a gang of basically Pokemon soccer hooligans who follow around one particular trainer. Marie, I think is her name?
Marnie.
She is from like this downtrodden part of the Pokemon world. It's this town that they've got a gym, but all the other gyms have the ability to make Dynamax gigantic Pokemon. But since their town's so run down, their gym doesn't have the tech.
How do you have both the team and their leader as individual entries on best character?
So Piers is a punk rocker who is also a gym leader, and he's pretty awesome. But Team Yell, let me tell you about Team Yell. They headbang when they're playing, when you battle them, and they mostly run around just kind of cheering at things. They've got punk like mohawks. One set of Team Yell members will hold up Marie's like a scarf with her picture on it, like they're soccer hooligans. They cheer a snake trying to go to sleep, and they will challenge you to a Pokemon battle if you get too close to the snake because they want it to sleep well.
Are you actually going to...
They stop you from going places because they're practicing their cheers.
Are you voting for these people?
They're excellent.
Pete, it's still preferable to him talking about Magic Pangle for an hour.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about Zoe.
Look,
Okay,
you cross all these people off this list.
Okay, we can get rid of Zoe Mona. That's fine. Never forget the Doodle King, and never forget Zoe gets shot with that gun.
I'm just going to put it out there. Team Yell is a poor man's Aether Foundation, but whatever.
I don't know who the Aether Foundation is, so who cares?
You're
So
not playing
Akarsha,
You're not playing the good Pokemon games.
do you like Akarsha?
Yes, I like Akarsha.
Okay.
I staked my claim when I picked Butterfly Soup as a game that we were going to play. And I'm sticking to it.
All right. So, Pete, are you actually defending the beast?
I mean, I don't really like any of these other characters that much, to be
It's got
honest with you.
squiggly legs.
I don't like Akarsha, like at all. Chloe Price already won.
Again, then I'd like to move to disqualify Chloe.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Fine.
Yeah.
This is she's not as good in Life is Strange Before the Storm. This is the larva Chloe Price. You can have the butterfly. Rachel Amber, I think she's a manic pixie girl. She mostly exists as this fixation of Chloe, and her characterization makes very little sense.
Yes.
Outside of she needed to have all these character traits so that Chloe would fall in love with her. So I'm okay with losing Rachel Amber. So we've got Ash, Team Yell, the Beast from Piku Niku, and Akarsha. So am I to understand no one will join me in supporting Team Yell? Because they would support you.
They would.
They do. If you play Sword and Shield.
Giovanni says to get the hell out of here with that Team Yell shit.
Did I mention they headbang?
I'm not picking characters from a game I didn't play.
They shout and go oi, and then they throw. They have the same 3 Pokemon every time.
This is convincing me.
Pete, you aren't thrilled with any of these characters, right? Do you have any that you would add to the list?
No, I mean I do like the Beast, but I don't think he should necessarily.
Gino, this is probably our only chance to get a Final Fantasy game to win.
If I'm going to vote, I would shift to Akarsha, because I at least know who Akarsha is. I can understand
God damn it, Gino.
Appeal.
This is your last chance.
I can't pick the Beast. I'll pick Akarsha.
Join my blood pack.
Okay, so Ash, she's a princess.
But she's a person of change. She actually enacts change. She doesn't just... And she has to earn her title and actually believes in being good in earning that title.
She believes in a better world, and that's...
She has one of your favorite lines in Final Fantasy history. I'm just me.
Yep, that's great. She's being manipulated by forces beyond her control, and she's like, no, I'm not going to be a pawn in your greater schemes. And she chooses her own path. She chooses her. So that's pretty good. On the other hand, Akarsha. She sends you weird texts all the time. She has that awesome moment in the gym where she's just shouting about being suicidal, I believe, and being really self-deprecating as a form of deflection because of her depression. She's really honest and raw. She hits on your character on several of the other characters. I think all of the other characters all the time, and no one knows what to do with her. I think she made me laugh out loud a few times, which was always really good. Ash is really good too. Man, this is a tough one. If I throw in with Akarsha, she just wins. If I throw in with Ash, we have to convince people that Ash is a really good character. Ash should be the main character of Final Fantasy XII, but she isn't because Vaughn exists.
And what a bad character Vaughn
What a bad character he is, but we'll get vengeance on him later.
All right, so Gino, promise me this. If you're not going to join me with Ash, you have to join me with Vaughn in the next category.
Oh, yes. We have a compromise.
That's my compromise.
Is Ash supposed to be wearing a skirt, or is that like a napkin that she uses to keep food off her lap?
Yeah, the character design in this game is bad. Look up Fran.
She's a princess. She's meant to be taken seriously.
That's the leader of her country's government. Got it.
Yeah, we should have put Fran on this next category as well, but
she's incognito. Oh boy. Yep. Best character is Akarsha from Butterfly Soup. Runner-up is Ash.
FF12 is where Rabbit
people wear. Yes, they wear bikinis. Yeah. I forgot to ask, did they actually fix that in Final Fantasy XIV? Do they still just run around in panties?
No. Actually,
if you want them to.
Fran's outfit in Final Fantasy XII is the starting equipment for all of the Viera in Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, so it still exists. Awesome.
Yep. So enjoy that.
Ugh.
So, worst character, next category. You from Disco Elysium, that's funny. 9S from Nier Automata. Squall from Final Fantasy VIII. The Turkey from Unravel 2. Nathan Rad Spencer from Bionic Commando. Gordon from Final Fantasy II. Vaughn from Final Fantasy XII. Penelo from Final Fantasy XII. Your Psychiatrist from Katana Zero. Swordbert from Pokemon Sword and Shieldbert from Pokemon Shield. Who are Swordbert and Shieldbert? I don't remember them.
You didn't do the post-game?
No, I guess not.
They're the worst. You should go fight Hop in the forest, and then you'll meet Swordbert and Shieldbert. And
okay.
They're awful.
I don't know them, but they're awful? Okay. That sounds bad, but let me tell you about Vaughn.
You don't have to.
He's a trash boy.
He's a pretty boy in a game about grit and like finding your own. And he's like
nipple covers.
Oh, Pete, you should look up his original chest design on the PS2 version. Oh my God, his abs. Gino, tell them all about his abs.
Let me paint you a word picture about Vaughn. Let me tell you a story. Pete, you will enjoy this. The original Final Fantasy XII script had Ash and her
Bosh.
Basically like royal bodyguard.
Why are they different colors from the rest of his skin?
Great question. Ash and Bosch were going to be the main characters of the game, but then Square was afraid that people would not identify with a male character who is in his 30s and a female character as the leads. So instead, they invented Vaughn, a 17-year-old pretty boy who has no reason to be in the story. They clearly wrote him in at the last minute. He basically just wanders around being amazed by things all the time, and yet somehow is the main character because no one could empathize with someone of a different age or gender than themselves. And the only people who play these games are young men, of course.
Yeah, this all checks out so far. When does the problem start?
And also, he stops developing as a character. I want to say, what would you say, Gino? Act 1.5? Like,
yeah,
within hour 5 of this 40 to 50 hour game, he stops being a character with development. His character arc resolves within the first act, and he stops having any purpose other than this is the character who you have on the box because he's a pretty boy that, you know,
there's
he's your
no
cipher.
reason for Vaughn. And then they made a sequel.
Like, yeah. I'm fine with him winning just based on his looks. I'll vote for Vaughn, sure.
Now, there's Vaughn. I also need to mention Nathan Rad Spencer. This fucking guy and his dreads and his wife arm. He's terrible. They took Rad Spencer, a very cool character from Bionic Commando, and they made him garbage.
You could also put in Super Joe.
Super Joseph, also terrible. I don't think Squall's the worst character.
No,
the turkey, that's funny, but no. You and Disco Elysium, haha, no. 9S is pretty shitty.
9S.
You remember that part where you have to control 9S at a boss, and it sucks?
Yeah. I remember everything about 9S. I can't forget. That's the problem.
Your psychiatrist is a terrible psychiatrist. Because I don't think he's that bad of a character, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Agree.
He's just horrible at his job.
I mean, it gets down to the point of video games continue to use that psychoanalytic model as the only representation of psychiatry. And it just is one of my pet peeves that I'm so sick and tired of. I put in Gordon from Final Fantasy II because, as you remember, I also put in
from Final Fantasy II
because, as you remember, he's a guy that basically is introduced to you at level 0 in the middle of a dungeon.
Yeah, he's
the
worst of your sidekicks.
He's has 20 hit points, and he's introduced to you in the middle of a dungeon. So you have to level him. In the middle
of the game.
You have to level him up with mid-game enemies. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Items don't stack, so any potions and Phoenix Downs that you use, you don't have those on unlimited tap. Oh, Final Fantasy II.
His job is mostly to lay down while all the other characters are doing the fighting. He just takes a nice nap.
But Vaughn, Gino, let's not forget about Vaughn.
But allow me to introduce another factor into this. Penelo. She is even less significant than Vaughn and only exists because Vaughn needed a sidekick.
I actually forgot Penelo existed.
And also remember, her only purpose is to get kidnapped in Act 1 and be a damsel in distress.
And then she barely gets to talk again.
Remember all those times when the camera would pan on her crotch and chest in a highly exploitative way?
She's supposed to be?
She's 13 years old.
Is she 13?
Are
you sure?
I think she's 13, 14. She's definitely young.
I thought she was like I mean, we're
nitpicking here. She's a
Yeah.
teenager. She's a minor, and the game pans at her chest and
Here's the
crotch.
thing. That's a problem with the game. That's not a problem with her as a character.
okay.
Yeah.
How's this for a problem with her as a character? She barely gets to talk. She barely does anything in the storyline. Her only story significant moment is befriending a young prince who saves her life.
And then
Because she's
also,
been kidnapped.
Vaughn gets jealous because he thinks he's being friend-zoned.
Yes.
And then becomes an alpha male and starts to try and get Penelo as his girl.
That's an even shittier like part of Bond. Then
Yeah,
Yes,
that's just
exactly.
Vaughn.
worse.
Okay, so is it worse to be the tacked-on character who was made the main character for no apparent reason, or to be the accessory who is added on who has no function other than to enhance this entirely
Be the
shitty
girlfriend,
character?
the tacked-on girlfriend that gets kidnapped.
I think like being like the shitty main character is worse
Okay.
than just being a non-entity.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we got our consolation prize, Gino.
Good. Fuck Vaughn. Gordon, you're also shit, but I think Penelo, you're an accessory to this crime. You are the worst. The worst character.
And it's a
is
damn
Vaughn.
shame because we really liked Ash, Balthier, and Bosch and the story in general, but just being forced to stomach through this plot line for the first 5 to 7 hours was miserable.
He's Captain Bosch of Dalmasca, and he can go fuck himself. Next up, best soundtrack. We've got Life is Strange Before the Storm, Disco Elysium, Gree, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy XII, Nier Automata, and Pokemon Sword Shield. Nier Automata, you don't get to win anything.
Hey, this is another category where Nier Automata deserves to be at least nominated, but yes.
It is, yes, it's nominated.
And now it's
I
gone.
think, and now it's gone. Disco Elysium?
It's a little too... I love Disco Elysium. I've been repping Disco Elysium pretty hard, but it's a little too sparse to consider it as best soundtrack. And it really only kicks up when you're in combat, which I always feel is disqualify worthy.
So it seems to me there's only one game here where the soundtrack like is a huge part of the game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
I think there's like 3, but go ahead.
so like Gree seems the one game where this. I mean, one of your mechanics is singing. Like the soundtrack is central to the whole thing in the way that like the other ones, they might be important, but they're not the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Gino might be erring more towards Life is Strange, and I feel like we had this conversation 2 years ago. I always prefer to give the credit to the game with an original soundtrack versus a licensed soundtrack, so I actually agree with Pete.
Yeah, I agree with CP who agrees with me.
Okay, that's fair. Though I will say some of the choices that they picked for Life is Strange Before the Storm made it onto my personal playlist, and I listen to them all the time. So, the songs that jump out, let me make sure I get their names correct. I have to go to my playlists. Black Flies by Ben Howard, No Below by Speedy Ortiz, Don't Mess With Me by Brody Dale, and Bros by Wolf Alice. All those songs are excellent, and they really add to Life is Strange Before the Storm. Pokemon Sword Shield, really good soundtrack. I don't think it punches with these other games.
I agree with that.
So, I don't think 12's soundtrack is as good as 8's.
Probably also my least favorite final boss music.
So, it's between Gree and Final Fantasy VIII now. Did we ever... FF8, did it win?
No, I think it
previous
lost.
years?
Remember, I invaded the podcast to try and fight for it, and then ended up pissing off Billy and Pete.
That's true.
Nice. Good W for us.
Mm.
So, I think FF8 kind of has the best of the Final Fantasy soundtracks, I think.
Final Fantasy VII won it? Oh, this was 2015, Gino. Remember, this is on your piece of paper. It's not in the doc.
Ah, right. Man, 8's really good. The soundtrack is excellent. Gree, also really good, but I don't think I would go out of my way to listen to Gree's music outside of playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's nice ambient music, but if you had played it without, it doesn't necessarily resonate with me as like, hey, I remember this scene. I remember this cello chord. though in-game I think it works perfectly. FF8 has an excellent soundtrack that is eminently listenable.
Also incredibly diverse.
Yeah. It's got a 70s cop drama.
It's got that James
guitar
Bond
lick.
inspired theme.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of jazz punk.
It's got some cheesy soap opera music.
Viva Fatalis.
ZP, are you with me on Final Fantasy VIII?
Yeah, I think I might actually change my vote to Final Fantasy VIII. It's probably got my favorite Final Fantasy battle theme.
Yeah. It's got the card game music.
It also has a really good version of the overture that plays when you get a game over.
Yeah.
I could listen to... I sometimes play Balam Garden just to calm down.
All the time.
Just to bring myself down, to get my calm nerves. Yeah, I'm going to change my vote to 8. FF8.
Join us. You've played Triple Triad. Do they still have the Triple Triad music?
They do have the Triple Triad theme. They made a remix of it.
Yeah, but it's still the same idea. Isn't it great?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think as far as the most effective in-game, though, it's got to go to Gree.
I don't... Eyes on Me? When that happens, it's pretty great.
And then the lyrics actually connect to the events of the story?
Yeah, they wrote an original song that is in-universe.
And it actually charted on the top 100?
It did. Pete?
I don't know a single one of these songs.
Yeah.
I don't like Final Fantasy. I've never liked Final Fantasy. I'm not going to vote for it now.
Shit.
Except when it's about a bad character.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. Vaughn does suck. I'll slag on Final Fantasy. I just won't support it.
In the interest of coming to a consensus, I will yield to Final Fantasy VIII. Yes. Although I do not agree with the assessment.
You should
democracy.
You should really listen to the FF. Have you listened to the FF8 soundtrack?
Well, now I guess I have to.
You should. It's really good.
It's on also Spotify now, so
yeah,
it is on Spotify now.
It's 8 to 9 hours of music. It's a lot.
Jesus.
But most of it's good.
Next
up, Prettiest Game. We've got Disco Elysium, Return of the Obra Dinn, Gree, Final Fantasy XII, Katana Zero, and Pokemon Sword Shield. Get out of here, Katana Zero.
This is where Pete gets his revenge. This is so clearly Gree. I can't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's Gree.
It's Gree.
Yep.
It's I think if you want to pick a number 2, I respect Obra Dinn's minimalistic, one-dimensional, two-dimensional art style. But yeah, it's
I think
Gree.
it goes Gree, then Obra Dinn, and then everything else can.
Yeah.
Sorry, those games look outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Does anyone have any different order in those?
No, I think history will reward us for this assessment.
Yes.
Okay, good. That was an easy category.
Mm-hmm.
Best performance / voice acting. We've got Fatal Frame, the whole game, all of it. Final Fantasy XII. Life is Strange Before the Storm. Bionic Commando. Nier Automata. Kingdom Hearts 3, and Disco Elysium. I would like to say that... Is there any
voice acting in Disco Elysium?
There is. Some of the characters speak a few lines of dialogue before they then trail off into just dialogue, into just text. I just want to... There's a few of these that are clearly best voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the ones that are clearly just bad voice acting and we put on this list just to make fun of, bye-bye Fatal Frame.
Yep.
Goodbye to you, Bionic Commando.
Sure. Although the dust
Nier Automata.
People.
Nier Automata doesn't get the winning thing.
Kingdom Hearts 3? No. Life is Strange Before the Storm.
Sora! Sorry.
Life is Strange Before the Storm was all done with scab actors.
Yeah, I don't want to give...
True.
That was exactly my point, is I don't want to give credit to Life is Strange for using scab. Also, I find the backstory to Final Fantasy XII and how its voice acting is not a complete disaster is Square Enix United States had a hard time interpreting, oh my God, there are all these accents. There's a certain geographic area in this game that has the Kansai accent versus the Tokyo accent versus the Honshu accent. What do we do? And they just randomly went up to an amateur Shakespearean comedy troupe and like went up to them, all these people with no professional training on how to do voice acting, and said, "Could you help us out here?" And they did it, and they pulled it off spectacularly.
I like that.
Good for
And
them.
they just picked a bunch of different European accents, basically.
Disco Elysium's text. Like, I don't care how much they talk before they trail off.
And all of the different accents are the same, like 10 or 12 people from that acting troupe working their asses off. And yes, there are moments with like Sid Ma Grace who are just a little over the top, but again, they're all stage actors. Some of them, we ended up looking it up, have never acted in a voice video game ever again. They continue to just be stage actors. And it's amazing that game was not a disaster, but it's also a testament to that game. They tried really hard and they pulled it off.
Yeah, Marquis Andor, his accent is great. He's got such an odd way of speaking. There's a lot of great lines of dialogue in 12, and like the Marquis Andor stands out to me. He just sounds so calm and reassuring. And
how accents are used to show status, it's actually a well-done kind of meta commentary within the game, the scope of the world.
Totally.
They still are.
I think 12 and then Disco Elysium, because all the rest of these games had poor voice acting. All right. So winner, Final Fantasy 12. Runner-up, Disco Elysium. Best mechanic. This is a toughie. Memento Mori in Obra Dinn. My Hands Don't Work. Surgeon Simulator. Camera Obscura. Fatal Frame. The Battle Grid. Mega Man Battle Network 3. Words as Mechanic, Baba Is You, The License Board, Final Fantasy XII, Camping, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and The Wild Area, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Let me just throw in the Junction System, FF8.
Don't fucking put that on there.
Gino. Then why don't you put in the fucking coloring mechanic from Magic Pangle?
Why don't I
tempt
indeed?
Oh, no. What have I done?
All right, I'm going to start to do a real thing while Gino's doing fake things. My vote here would be Words as Mechanic and Baba Is You.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it starts off, like, you have to sort of learn this grammar, and eventually as you get further and further into the game, you can do literally anything with anything. I shouldn't say literally. You can do almost anything with anything, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to do Words as Mechanic because it basically breaks the game open and lets you explore games within games.
And where are you on this?
Let's see. I'm leaning towards a wild area, I think, in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Because it's the open world thing that we've always wanted from Pokemon games that we haven't gotten for 20-something years, and now it's finally here.
Is that the one with the big Pokemon? Are they there?
They are there.
Okay, that's a good one. I could support that.
And it's kind of an MMO zone. Like,
Yeah.
you can see other players roaming around, and you can basically join raids to fight giant Pokemon.
I'm not gonna lie. I've only played Pokemon Sword Shield for I think 8 to 10 hours, and I greatly actually support how they've totally streamlined the Pokemon experience, where it's not this drawn out 20 to 30 plus hour basically RPG. And I would even go for the wild area of Pokemon Sword Shield.
All right.
That's where I was leaning, because I think the wild area is the single biggest addition to the Pokemon formula. It is an area, and Pete, as someone you've played Pokemon games before, right?
Yeah, I played up through Diamond Pearl.
Okay, so what they do with the wild area is that in the wild area specifically, you can run into Pokemon from all over the world, like all the different areas,
like all the
pretty
games?
much. No, like all the different areas in this game.
Gotcha.
So, like, the late game areas, usually you won't see Pokemon from there until you get past, 7 gyms or whatever.
Right.
In the wild area, you can run into almost any Pokemon just by wandering around enough. Like, there are certain subsections of the wild area where they tend to live, and, it's random spawns on some of them, but you can just get, young versions of Pokemon that you maybe won't see again for another 5 hours. And it lets you have a team that has a blend of different characteristics and different types. Before the first gym, you can get access to a bunch of Pokemon that you might not see in their natural habitat for another 5-6 hours.
Instead
in some
of just
cases.
getting slammed with bugs.
Exactly. You don't just have to have bugs. Like, they have an area with ghosts, an area with psychic.
Imagine the Safari Zone
ice.
from previous generations, but it has everything except legendary Pokemon.
Look, I think this is a good pick. I'm on board.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So first is definitely the wild area. Second, who cares?
How is you?
Do we need a second?
Yeah, I'm willing to go.
Actually, I'm going to go words with
mechanics.
as mechanics.
Okay.
That's fine.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
The junction system, my heart beats for you, but
I was actually going to vote for
ago.
the license board system, but Gino didn't play because he played the wrong game.
Also, the license system kind of sucks.
No, it has its moments.
It has its moments, but
the fact you can't respec and you're stuck with the choice you made in hour 2 for the rest of the game is cruel.
Yep.
It's cruel.
So, next category, biggest disrespect of players' time. Nier Automata, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 12, Life is Strange Before the Storm. Why is that? Okay. Final Fantasy 2, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
It's Nier Automata.
It's Nier Automata.
For as much as I hate Chain of Memories too, it's definitely Nier Automata.
It's Nier Automata. That is
it
clearly
literally
the most
makes you play the same game 4 times.
Now, what is the second most disrespectful? I don't think Life is Strange even belongs here. I think that game is pretty respectful of your time.
I think it's Final Fantasy 2, but my version.
It's Final Fantasy 12.
I think it's my no. Hear me out, Gino.
It's Chain of Memories.
I think it's my version of Final Fantasy 12. The one you refused to play out of principle.
Whatever.
Okay, so they all lose.
Yeah.
The runners-up are at a 4-way tie
all the other ones.
between Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 2, and Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. You're all losers. Life is Strange Before the Storm. You were innocent. I don't know who dragged you into this.
But no, yeah, it's Nier Automata. Let's not fuck around.
Yeah. Best twist. Oh, this is good. One of my favorite categories every year. Best twist.
Oh, this is going to be murder.
The sun keeps exploding. Outer Wilds. The monster is you. Pikuniku. The monster is your dad. Papa Yo. Your wife is your arm. Bionic Commando. Alchemy is good, actually. Golden Sun.
The Lost Age.
The Lost Age. A Nomai is alive. Outer Wilds. There's a Quantum Moon. Outer Wilds. Laguna is your dad. Final Fantasy VIII. Everyone knows, but everyone knows everyone, but they forgot because they're all orphans with amnesia. Final Fantasy VIII. There's a single gun in the world of Magic Pendule, and it's used to shoot a small child.
Didn't that win a previous year?
No, remember you and I politicked to give it to Doki Doki Literature Club, and Gino hasn't dropped it, and he keeps putting it in there whenever he gets another podcast.
It is a great twist.
Hatoful Boyfriend's Bad Boys Love Ending. The evil team wasn't so evil after all. Pokemon Sword and Shield, and delete your game to save humanity. Nier Automata.
That was my favorite twist because I was happy to delete it.
Oh no! What a cost! I won't be able to go back and enjoy these memories. Okay, so I think we can get rid of the monster is you and Pikuniku.
Yeah.
The monster is your dad and Papa Yo because the name of the game is Dad and Me. Alchemy is good, actually.
Yeah, no, that's not.
Yeah.
Like, nobody plays Golden Sun for the twist.
All right, I'm going to request that you pick one of these Outer Wilds rather than have 3 here.
This is a Golden State sort of situation. They're cannibalizing each other.
Yeah,
I think it has to be The Sun Keeps Exploding, or
a Nomai is alive. I'll go with The Sun Keeps Exploding because you don't find that out
until the very end.
Necessarily organically.
Yeah. When it happens, because you might not even see it.
It blows your mind when it happens. Your wife is your arm, Bionic Commando. That's a dumb twist.
Classic twist.
It's a great twist. What are you saying? What are you saying? No.
But Let me just throw something out there. If your wife is your arm is your jam for best twist, can I interest you in a different twist? It turns out that in Final Fantasy VIII, every main character except for one all knows each other because they all were in the same orphanage as children. However, they all forgot about it because they've all got amnesia.
That's
from
just
fighting.
stupid.
That's the worst sentence I've ever heard.
Because all of them, in order to access their combat abilities, they have to equip some sort of magical beasts that empower them. And the beasts live in the part of your brain where your memories
Listen to the
made.
words you're saying. You're having a stroke. This is a medical emergency.
Pete, let him keep talking, because if he talks about Final Fantasy VIII, he won't talk about Magic Pangle.
You see, they can't remember their friends because they're trading their memories to save the world.
Honestly, I never got that far in Final Fantasy VIII, but now that you're saying it, what the
Makes perfect sense. All the pieces are coming together.
I didn't even put the time travel elements into the best
Yeah,
twist
there's
section.
time compression. You find out you're
Turns
actually
out the
living
whole
in a
group-
time loop.
You're in a time loop?
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
You want to talk about time loops?
Cross
Let's
it
go
off.
back to Outer Wilds.
Get rid of this.
Fine. I tried. The single gun in the world of Magic Pendule. You know, I'll mention Magic Pendule in a different award. It doesn't have to win again.
I love that.
Forever.
I love that scene though.
It's so good.
Now,
Beautiful
I
Boyfriends,
go
Bad
on a
Boys, Love
weird
Ending.
rant about something. So let me tell you about the Chiron virus.
Didn't we already have this rant?
And
I
let me
Yes.
talk about how the Chiron virus started, and then humanity tried to reverse engineer the Chiron virus to prevent it from killing people, but then it ended up evolving birds into a different plane of existence to where they now gained sentience. And then the birds started to wage war upon the humans, and now humans live in the last bastion of humanity in North America. And when they send one of their representatives to St. Pigeon Nations and she gets killed, all
You
of the
crossed this
people,
one off
all of the
twice,
children in St. Pigeon Nations are being sent to the last bastion of humanity as a blood sacrifice, so as that humanity gets its revenge, and then the bird-human wars will begin. And you have to prevent that from happening by finding out that the professor was the lead researcher of the Chiron virus from Nageki, whose liver is now being put into cryostasis in the basement of the school. And he was the orphaned brother of the math teacher who got plastic surgery so he could come back to the school to find out where his body was.
My rant was more sane. Get rid of this.
Can we just give it to
We
the
already
Outer Wilds?
crossed it off.
Yeah, let's give it to Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds wins.
Thank you.
Second place. Let's give that to.
Let's give it to Nier. It's actually a decent plot twist.
Yeah,
Even
but-
you, what are you talking about? I
Fine,
get
fine.
you all hated that game, but
Hold
it's
on.
literally a decent moment. It would have been better had it not been stretched across a 20 to 30 hour continuum, but it's a worthwhile twist.
Here's
So-
a counterpoint for you. If
Okay.
you've played any of the other Nier games, or any of the other Drakengard games,
Yes, you're correct.
you know this is not a twist.
Whatever.
Yes.
There are no awards for second place anyway.
Okay,
No
fine.
one cares. No one cares about this.
Here comes. Let's jump ahead because we were missing some. Should we go to worst game or biggest indictment of capitalism?
Pick one.
You want to skip some bad ones?
No, we can go ahead. Worst game of our year, 2019. Final Fantasy II, Rad, Nier Automata, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Bionic Commando. The
These
winner
are
is
all-
Final Fantasy II.
These are all
Yes.
terrible games.
Final Fantasy II
You
is
think?
probably the second worst game we've ever played on the podcast.
It's up there. Yeah. It's really bad.
And
Don't play
I
it.
only say it's second because we've played the worst game on this podcast, Gino and I, Final Fantasy 13.
Mm.
It's one of the most maliciously, evilly designed games we've ever seen in our entire lives.
2 or 13?
2. Well, also
2's
13.
not good. 2's experimental and weird, so I can forgive it more, but it's not fun to play.
Your items
then-
don't stack, and quest items stay in your inventory in perpetuity. You only have 32 slots in the original game, And because there are 12 items, you are stuck with 20 item slots, and one of those slots is used for the delete item command. So you only have 19 by the end of the game. And I want to point out, you remember this, M, when I mentioned that I had a character die, I used the revive spell, and it missed because all spells, even restorative magic, have an accuracy rating.
That's incredible.
Sure.
Isn't it? So, second place, I want to say Kingdom Hearts, probably, because it's no fun to play. I mean, Nier is not...
Nier's good the
it's
first
more
time.
technically proficient.
You just have to play it another, like, 7.
Yeah, there's too much Nier.
Chain of Memories is just a bad mechanic on a bad game.
Here's the thing about Chain of Memories. Story. It's so bad that when they put it in that Kingdom Hearts repackaging, they completely changed everything and even allow you to just watch the cutscenes.
Yeah.
Another thing worth mentioning in Chain of Memories, everything we've said about Nier is also true about Chain of Memories, because to get the whole story, you have to play it a second time as well.
At least it's
Everyone forgets about the Riku playthrough.
No, that's the same as Nier.
All right, next up, worst story and/or written dialogue: Fatal Frame, Bionic Commando, Hatoful Boyfriends, Bad Boys Love Ending, Nier Automata, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
I am going to die on the hill of Bionic Commando.
Bionic Commando. I think this award was made for Bionic Commando's wife arm.
How about all that inappropriate kind of off-putting jingoism?
And the sniper who just never ever shows up again or has any involvement in anything.
There's a dust cloud, and he says, "Do you smell that? That's people you're breathing." That's a real line in the game.
Which almost redeemed Bionic Commando, but even so.
Remember,
worst story: Bionic Commando. Second place: Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Agreed?
Agreed.
It somehow makes a ridiculous game even... Like, they just redo it. It's just retelling Kingdom Hearts. It's okay. Biggest indictment of capitalism.
Oh yeah, we're
Piku Niku.
Yeah, sorry.
Surgeon Simulator, Kingdom Hearts 3, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. So I think we've got two subcategories here. We've got Piku Niku, which is a game that actually has a critique of capitalism.
Yes.
And then we've got Kingdom Hearts 3, Chain of Memories, and 8 Remastered, which are capitalism in action.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Surgeon Simulator on here?
That's a good question. Who put Surgeon Simulator? Does anyone have an argument for Surgeon Simulator?
No, you can eliminate it.
End up in places.
Oh, I put it on there because of the surge of simulator games and how that's an indictment of capitalism and the state of Steam.
That's true, but I don't think that it's Surgeon Simulator's fault.
Mm.
Whereas I think these other games... Piku Niku is a very simplistic takedown of capitalism.
Yeah, it's the only game about capitalism we played this year, though.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'd still go Chain of Memories, just because like it's a game that has literally no redeeming qualities, except that it leverages Disney's IP and existing fans of the Kingdom Hearts franchise.
And it kicked off several characters that were created seemingly just to sustain the story without involving more Disney characters.
Now hear me out, Gino. How long have Final Fantasy VIII fans been asking for a remaster of Final Fantasy VIII? A release of this game on modern platforms? Forever. And how bad is this remaster?
It's not great, but
it's very bad, Gino.
There are reasons
it displays
for
in
that.
16 by 9.
It does. However, they lost the source code and did what they could. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories is cynical in a way that I think FF8 Remastered is not.
How do you lose the source code?
It's a long
That's
story.
A great question.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'll look it up myself on my own time.
There's actually a really good article on Kotaku. So
Yeah,
Okay.
People have done dives on this. It's not great.
I'll check it out.
Their code practices were not ideal.
And it was widespread in the industry at the time, but it's...
Why would you keep it? The game's out. I'm fine with... Em, you sound like you have some feelings on this.
I was going to vote for Final Fantasy VIII because As far as a remastered goes, it's not much of a remastering.
Yeah, it's a re-release of the PS2 version and an even worse version of the PS2 version. Gino, remember that part where it starts outputting music with the MIDI?
Oh, right. Fuck.
What?
Okay, yeah. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered is the worst version.
Hold on.
There are
Right.
times when the music goes from the full quality music and then it starts playing the MIDI soundtrack.
Yeah. There's
You're
a part where
kidding.
they lost one of the files. They
Nice.
lost one of the sound files, and instead of playing the actual music, which you can find if you go on Spotify and just listen to the
So half
Garden
the
Battle
soundtrack
music.
is MIDI, and they literally
not half. It's a song.
but it's online for free.
Yeah, you can go to Spotify and you can listen to the actual song, but in the game they released for money, there's a MIDI song in there. There are multiple scenes where there are characters in the new remastered sprites interacting with the old PS1 sprites. There are times where there are multiple character models stacked on top of each other for seemingly no reason.
What?
It's really bad.
It's just lazy, it seems.
It's not great.
Hey.
So I'm fine with that coming
Yeah.
in first,
I'll get
and then
to
Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories coming in
Agreed.
second. Kingdom Hearts 3 also go to hell. But
Mm.
next up, most replayable classic, we've got Mega Man Battle Network 3, Golden Sun: The Lost Age, Magic Pendule, and Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. I think 8 Remastered or Battle Network 3 is probably my...
Yeah.
Battle
I love
Network 3 is more fun.
I love Golden Sun, but it's not like I don't
Doesn't
love it
hold
for
up.
its replayability. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not the reason I like it.
Mega Man Battle Network 3 is my vote.
Yeah,
Better.
gets
It
my
holds up.
I think 8 is...
Specifically that version of 8, though.
Yeah. Specifically that version of 8, though, is not the one I would play.
Mhm.
So Mega Man Battle Network 3 wins. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, you're available on Steam, which makes you more accessible than the other version, but you're not the definitive version of that game. And Magic Pendule, RIP. And now we are on to our personal awards. So, Pete, why don't you tell us about the Jean-Paul Sartre Memorial Award for a game that best expresses the ultimate futility of the human condition?
Yes.
What is this award?
So this is an award for the game that sort of reveals the nihilism at the center of the human condition. So if you want sort of an expression of this, you can go read The Myth of Sisyphus, which is actually Camus and not Sartre, but it fits here as well. So this is the idea that everything's meaningless. There's no purpose except that which we create for ourselves. So I'm tempted to give it to Nier Automata, whatever, just because it makes you hate your life and everything and part of it. But I'm actually going to give it to Rad this year because it's sort of an undermining of human genetic destiny and biology. So sort of a large tradition in humanism, or sort of the idea that humans are at the pinnacle of existence, comes from our genes, from our biology. And this is sort of pointing out that no, it's just strings of letters. It can be changed. And there's no sort of teleology such that evolution was building to us. It's all just random in the end. So,
Okay.
giving it to Rad.
So the other nominees were Nier Automata,
Oh, sorry, I didn't
Niku,
even- I
and
apologize.
Fatal Frame.
Yes.
And the winner is Rad.
The winner is Rad.
So next up, we've got my award, the Platypus Award for Game That Should Not Be. The nominees are, so the category, like the stately platypus, you look at it and go, how'd you survive? How are all of these other creatures that have gone extinct gone, and yet you, the duck-billed platypus, continue to exist? That's amazing. That shouldn't be. And there are games that are like that. They were clearly made, misshapen, horrifying. Sometimes they've combined elements of other games in a way that you're like, these shouldn't go together. Who greenlit this? Who worked on this? Why? And that is what this award is for. Because I love those things, those misshapen lumps of tissue and code. And so, the nominees for this year are Bionic Commando, Outer Wilds, Final Fantasy II, Return of the Obra Dinn, Magic Pendule, Final Fantasy VIII Remaster, and Mega Man Battle Network 3. I'm just going to go ahead and first off, I want to start with a award ceremony unto itself, because sometimes you just need to acknowledge that a specific game, it did excellent, but it's been nominated before. It'll always be there in your heart. And even though it technically qualifies for the award according to our rules of, if we played it this year, it counts. Sometimes you just need to lift some of these up into the rafters and just give them honorariums. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to retire some numbers. Final Fantasy VIII Remaster, your number is retired. Final Fantasy VIII, you should not be, and you always shouldn't be. Magic Pendule, same thing. Those games are retired. They are always winners in my heart, but you cannot win this year. Now we come down to the games that are remaining. Return of the Obra Dinn is an excellent game. It calls back to early, I think 80s PC games, if that. With an aesthetic that really jumps out and grabs you, but I don't think it's weird and misshapen enough. Mega Man Battle Network 3. It's a Game Boy Advance game that somehow tells a compelling story about our coming techno dystopia that we live in every single day. But that's just prescient. That's not misshapen. Bionic Commando? Again, this game is a sequel to a Super Nintendo game, and they decided that the thing about the main character that we need to preserve is his name, but we should give him dreads, and we should make his wife his arm. That's also terrible, but not a winner. The winner, instead, is Final Fantasy II, because Final Fantasy II is just... They took a successful game. Final Fantasy I saved a company. Final Fantasy II, they said, how's about instead of redoing the game, just extend it a little bit, make one but more? What if we threw out everything we did in terms of leveling? What if we came up with all of it just on the spot, and then we'll do all the math on, bath tissue? And that's what we're going to do. There are versions of this game. There's a spell in Final Fantasy II called Ultima. It is the ultimate spell in Final Fantasy II.
Right.
And in the original version of the game,
Right.
it is bugged.
Yeah.
It does not work properly. It doesn't deal the most damage of any of the spells. And instead of changing that, it was argued by one of the developers that, hey, actually this spell is really old, so the newer spells will be stronger than them. So even though we revere it as being a powerful spell, we shouldn't fix it because actually it's an indictment of antiquity.
Lore.
You're forgetting the part where that designer then coded it using a cipher so as that the lead developer couldn't fix it.
So no one could fix it.
What?
Final Fantasy II is amazing that it exists. It has a dialogue system. It has multiple playable characters. It, in many ways, kicked off Final Fantasy tradition of reinventing the wheel every single time out. It's amazing that game exists. It's not fun, but man, it sure exists. And that's weird. So I'm going to give the award to Final Fantasy II. Runner-up is Outer Wilds because, again, that game is a Clockwork World that I am amazed that game turned out as well as it did. But Final Fantasy II, you are a platypus and you win this award. Next up, we've got M's award.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be M's Sheeple Award, most widely overstated/overrated.
This is pretty self-explanatory. These are the games that got, critical acclaim, and then we played them thinking we were in for a treat, and then it fell disastrously short. The nominees are Nier Automata, Kingdom Hearts 3, Disco Elysium, and Baba Is You. I feel like there should be more on here, considering what we played this year.
Yeah, how much love has Katana Zero gotten?
Some.
Okay.
Some.
Not on the level of these other nominees, though.
Yeah.
Was it-
No,
really.
some people put Nier Automata as their best game of the decade. Which
Yeah.
Never mind.
Wasn't
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts card game well received at the time?
No.
Really?
Not
No.
especially well
Okay.
received. It was a good game, but it wasn't you need to play Chain of Memories.
Mm-hmm. The only reason you would need to play Chain of Memories is because
You're
there was
already
plot
in too
relevant.
deep. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So, of these games, it's gotta be Nier. Kingdom Hearts 3 was pretty... I don't know. I couldn't. I just can't. Nier Automata was bad on a extraordinary level that I did not expect given how much everyone loves it. And then it made you do it 4 times.
It was like personal. Like they were like,
Yeah.
"No, you're going to hate this."
Yes. Like, Disco Elysium, it's good. Like, Baba Is You, it's good. It's a lot of the same stuff, but Nier is just that special awful that we have to acknowledge.
It's like, hey, do you like anime plot lines and melodrama? If no, you're in for a treat.
Mm-hmm.
I kept expecting for it to be not that for 20 hours, but it was just that.
Yep.
It's like
I wanted the mask to come off, and the mask came off, and it was like, no, it's anime.
it's like it's your favorite part of Dragon Ball Z, the episodes where they charge up their power. We have a game for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the winner is Nier Automata, and then ZP Help I'm Trapped in Sysiphean Torment Award.
So to review what this reward is, it's not necessarily the worst game, nor is it the game that is, as we've talked about, the biggest waste of your goddamn time. This is the game where, through side quests, extra content, plus the main story, it is the game that is most torturously long, torturously painful, and could be, given the right circumstances, used as a form of torture. So, first off, I'm going to start from the list. It's Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy XII, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, and Nier Automata. So right off the bat, I can safely say that the Final Fantasy VIII Remaster, it's not long enough. At this point, I've improved my time to where I can now beat this game thanks to the help of Gino, and there's also a stream which will go up on my YouTube channel shortly. I can beat it around 18 hours on a good day if I'm trying to stretch things out, about a day. So it's just not long enough at this point for me. It
doesn't punch
anymore.
It doesn't
punch anymore. It doesn't give me that high, that rush of, oh my God, this game is work. I hate myself. What am I doing with my life? I want my hours of my life back. And for a similar reason, I'm actually going to, even though we've nominated it for basically the biggest worst waste of your goddamn time, I'm actually going to eliminate Nier Automata. And here's my reasoning. It's not a matter of if you'll beat Nier Automata. It's a matter of when. Should you? Yes, you have to basically play the game 4 times. And those 4 times are the most repetitious, annoying, nitpicky, bullshitty things you could ever imagine. But as someone who kind of appreciates the weird, odd design of the original Nier and Drakengard in general, it's kind of in line with those games where they don't play good. They're weird, like, little coloring books that Yoko Taro makes, and it's like, I want to make a coloring book. And it's like, yep, here you go. Here's $5 million. Go make your coloring book. And now we've sold millions of copies of this game. Here's your next budget. Go ahead and make another coloring book. But in the end, you can beat Nier Automata. Any random human being can beat Nier Automata. This leaves us Final Fantasy II and Final Fantasy XII. Now, Final Fantasy II, I want to say wins this category. However, had it not been for the fact that Final Fantasy II was so easily exploitable, so easily broken within, what would you say, Gino, about hour 10-ish?
If you know what you're doing,
if you know what you're
FF2
doing,
is not hard.
It's not that hard. Now, that leaves us with Final Fantasy XII. Final Fantasy XII is long, and it is painfully long. There's no real efficient way to grind in that game outside of a few exploitable sequences, and even then, you are grinding. You're in the salt mines. You're toiling away, and there is so much optional content that your characters and their classes don't flesh out unless you do that side content. Their entire abilities, summons, weapons, items. Some of the license board grid spots that you buy, like bombs for certain classes, you don't get until the final act of the game. Yet it's there in the early part of the schemes of like buying, using your points. And the hunts, the side quests, the main portion of the side quests are so Byzantine in their design. It's just painful. You have to go up to a license board, accept a job, then go find the person who posted that job, talk to them, hear their little spiel, then the monster will spawn, but only if it has just a normal spawn rate. Sometimes the fields of making them show up, you have to kind of discover on your own. And it's kind of like this. It just highlights...
And then you have to go back to who gave you the quest after you kill it.
Go back to who gave it to you, cash that in, and then you get budgeted. And then you need to go to the guild owner of that guild, talk to him, and then you actually get your actual points and experience for that kill. It's kind of like what our guest at that time, Rory, said. The game, for every part of it, feels like it was deliberately designed to sell game guides. Because,
yeah,
and I cannot emphasize enough, this is a game with a job system where once you make a job pick, once you select a job for your character, you're locked in. There is no respec option. So if you accidentally skewed a character to be a white mage and that white mage disappears, for example, my playthrough, gets kidnapped and they're gone for 5 hours, you don't have a white mage for those 5 hours because you don't get that slot anymore.
And let me just, Pete, and just in case you haven't played 12, the number one way to grind in this game is to program your characters to play themselves and then leave your system on overnight.
Nice.
So
the
way that your characters move, the gambit system, is this giant time sink because it's a real-time RPG, and Square couldn't find a way to design the AI to behave the way you want them to, so you actually have to program the character's AI.
Do it.
Yeah.
You have to take time in-game and then also buy the programs within-game with your actual hard-earned money and resources. So all of the options that are useful to you, like casting an all version of a healing spell, you actually need to spend money to get.
The parameters so that they'll do it at the right moment. Yeah, this game, they added a ×4 speed option in the remaster, and it's not fast enough.
And just to
this game is like 70 hours.
There is a optional.
It's a single player MMO.
Yes, it's a single player MMO. There is an optional dungeon in this game, and I'm going to count down how many floors it has because it leads to the super boss. One of 2 super bosses, the other of which...
Please don't actually count the floor. How many floors is it?
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30... 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. 44 levels.
The help I'm trapped in Sysiphean Torment award goes to Final Fantasy 12. That game's too long. There should be less of it. All right.
Before
now,
I do want to ask, why was Rad and stuff like Outer Wilds, where you are repeating the same thing over and over again, not nominated for an award in this?
Because
category?
I just played around with this. I just got access to this. Rad is bad, but it's not bad enough, and it's not long enough. Outer Wilds is just too good. Yeah. Outer Wilds is too good.
Also, Katana Zero.
Part of the Sysiphean Torment award is that
it has to be torture.
If you can roll the boulder up the hill, the problem with Sisyphus isn't rolling the boulder up the hill, it's that it doesn't stop. If it stops sooner, then it's actually not that bad.
Gotcha.
So now, our final award, Game of Our Year 2019. The nominees are Papa EO, the Final Fantasy trading card game, Bionic Commando, Final Fantasy XII, Gree, Return of the Obra Dinn, Magic Pendule, Kingdom Hearts 3, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Piku Niku, Golden Sun The Lost Age, Trauma Center 2, Surgeon Simulator, Celeste, Outer Wilds, Nier Automata, Butterfly Soup, Final Fantasy 2, Rad, Baba Is You, Unravel 2, Fatal Frame, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, Disco Elysium, Mega Man Battle Network 3, Katana Zero, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and Hotiful Boyfriend, Bad Boys Love, whatever the rest is.
Oof.
Okay. This is a banging list.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and
Heavy
just
hitters.
let me get rid of some games that I think, object if you want. Here's the ones that I'm thinking we can probably lose immediately. Bionic Commando,
Yeah.
Magic Pendule,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kingdom Hearts 3,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories,
Yep.
Piku Niku,
Uh-huh.
Golden Sun The Lost Age,
Yes, probably.
Trauma Center 2,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Surgeon Simulator,
Mhm.
Yep.
Celeste,
Yeah, you heard us.
Yeah, it's not gonna compete.
Nier Automata,
Absolutely not.
Final Fantasy 2,
Nope.
Yep.
Rad,
Drop it.
Just bad.
Baba Is You,
Fun.
Unravel 2,
Bye-bye.
Fatal Frame,
See ya.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy VIII Remastered,
Absolutely not.
Don't want it.
Katana Zero,
Don't want it.
Hotiful Boyfriend. Get the fuck out of
Yeah.
here.
Whatever.
Get rid of it. We don't even know the name of the thing.
Okay, so Game of Our Year 2019. The remaining games that I did not lose. Does anyone want to nominate something else that they think just clearly doesn't need discussion?
I don't think the
Final
Final
Fantasy
Fantasy
12.
trading card game.
No.
Fight me.
Okay, then Final Fantasy 12.
I don't think you can award a trading card game for the game of our year for a video game podcast.
Especially
Let's get
when
rid of Final Fantasy 12 first.
I mean, Papa EO was interesting, compelling
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, but not particularly like amazing.
there are more well-rounded dramas.
Mm-hmm.
Life is Strange
Okay.
is a worse Life is Strange.
That's a good
That's a fair
point.
point. I'm okay with losing it because it's a good year.
All right.
Yeah.
So the remaining games are Final Fantasy Trading Card Game, Gree, Return of the Obra Dinn, Outer Wilds, Butterfly Soup, Disco Elysium, Mega Man, and Pokemon Sword and Shield. Let me just say my piece with Final Fantasy Trading Card Game, and then I'm fine with losing
Okay.
it. It is, again, this is the game that broke me from Magic the Gathering. I've played Magic for almost 20 years now, and that was the game that actually did the Magic but better in a way that was compelling to me. And it was not just the license. I think that they made smart decisions about the mechanics that break some of the problems I have with playing Magic and redesign them in a way that makes it more palatable and more replayable. The game is much more balanced as well, which is nice. And I think it's a really inventive take on a kind of combat-based trading card game. It's really interesting. It has no right to be as good as it is. I know, Pete, we've played it.
Yeah, no, I definitely think.
It's solid.
Yeah, I've never played Magic. I don't understand Magic, to be honest. Like, I
Yeah,
dislike it. I just don't know how
it's
to play it.
it's a damn shame that this game does not have better distribution.
Yeah, it's good.
It's better now.
It's objectively good.
It's getting better distribution. It needs to build a little more. And for me, like, it's probably the game I've put the most time into, just because of deck building and participating in tournaments. But I'm fine with it not winning Game of Our Year.
I will say, I feel like the reason why it's gaining more traction is because Magic had a really weird year. It's an up and down
It did.
year.
But at least it's partially because Final Fantasy is actually a legitimately good game, and people should play it. I would argue for it. I play it all the time. You can always look up the RVA Returners locals, online locals. I am there almost every week. So
I think so. Just moving on, I think we can probably cross off Gree. I think it won the awards it needed to. You guys want it?
I mean,
I think its aesthetics are the strongest, and I think it won the aesthetic awards it deserved.
Yeah.
That's my point.
So my top two right now, and I've made this very clear, I obviously have gaming preferences that are different on this podcast. It's probably Outer Wild and Disco Elysium. Maybe Mega Man Battle Network, but that's because, for me, using video games as escapism, that satisfying gameplay loop, that loot grind loop in Mega Man Battle Network is so good. So I think I'm good with Gree getting eliminated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Respect or agree. But
Yeah, no.
Yes, absolutely.
It deserved the awards
Play
it
it.
won.
yeah.
Play agree. So is anyone holding up for Return of the Obra Dinn?
No, I mean, it hurts me to see it go because I really liked a lot of the stuff that game did, but it's not going to win for me.
Yeah, I also feel like, as Pete mentioned earlier, that twist about crab people it earns that moment, but in comparison to the heights of the other games on this list, it kind of is not necessarily depressing or disappointing. It's just a weird thing
It's
that
slightly
feels
silly.
weak. Yes. It's anachronistic, if anything.
Yeah, I think that having all these dioramas that you walk around in and the moments when it gets supernatural, I think really work.
Mm-hmm.
It makes this world that is already very cartoonish kind of pop in spots, and the way that they use the diorama format really works for me. But I don't think that it's not in my top 2. So,
Yeah.
So are any of these games not in anyone's top 2?
I didn't enjoy Disco Elysium all that much. I can understand why ZP likes it, but I think for a lot of the reasons he likes it are reasons why it didn't do it for me.
Sure, no problem.
Same.
I feel like if you are not, I mean, it's a greater commentary about, I was meaning to send this email in, it's like Disco Elysium being a love letter to a community that does not care about the input of people that do not like this genre is kind of a commentary in and of itself of like the waning relevance of games criticism, or the old school form of games criticism of assessing of the value of a game using a number. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a love letter to a genre that if you are an outsider looking in, it's kind of a weird thing. But man, oh man, for those that have been in it to win it, as we say, it is a very effective love letter, and it warmed my heart to play. No problem.
Okay. All right. So we've got the remaining games. My top 3 are definitely Outer Wilds, Butterfly Soup, and Pokemon Sword and Shield are my top 3.
Yeah, my top 1 is Outer Wilds. And then I haven't played it, but based on what you've described it as, I think Pokemon Sword and Shield would be a reasonable choice.
I think I had most fun going back to Mega Man Battle Network, though. It's
really good.
It was the game that kind of convinced me that less is more. I used to think of the GBA as kind of like, handheld gaming has moved in the right direction, and now you're using your Switch to basically replace your handheld gaming. There's something about that era of handheld games that I feel like nothing has really emulated properly into the modern era of games that we live in today. Just that a handheld game was something very specific.
Yeah. They used to work with a limited palette and worked in short bursts, and that was integral to the design in every way. And games now, you're just taking a AAA game with you, and they don't necessarily adapt one-to-one to how the old design aesthetic used to be. However,
I don't think it compares
we
favorably.
have to make hard choices now.
I don't think it compares favorably to Outer Wilds. I also don't think it compares favorably to Pokemon Sword and Shield. It hurts me to say that.
I think Pokemon Sword and Shield is all of the things you said about Battle Network 3, except modernized.
Yeah.
Like, it still works in the short Pokemon bursts. It just, I think, executes on it better. So, Butterfly Soup. Is that... I haven't been touching it because I figured you might want it, or... I really enjoyed it, too.
Yeah.
Like, Butterfly Soup's in my top, too.
It's probably third for me. My list is Sword and Shield, Battle Network, Butterfly Soup, just because I haven't played Outer Wilds.
Right.
But I'm glad that it's still on the list. I'm okay with giving it the props it deserves and setting it free.
Goodbye, Butterfly Soup. I loved you.
Yes.
you're a heartwarming tale that everyone should play. It's a very short game, but it's really heartfelt and endearing.
And now we
And made me
return
smile.
to the debate that we always end up going back to for Game of Our Year. We have the game that I think has a lot to share narratively, has a lot to share creatively, and then we have the game that was just plain fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always tough for me to pick which of those two I want to go with. Because obviously Pokemon Sword and Shield is the most fun that I've had. Even in the scant few hours, like 10 to 12 hours that I've played it. It's just plain fun. But Outer Wilds, like we said, it's something that needs to be taught as a form of Outer Wilds it's a game that shows what games are capable of.
Yeah.
Why are you changing the colors?
Because I realized that I reversed the colors from how I've done it in years past, and I don't want to confuse myself.
So red is good and green is bad?
Red is good and green is bad.
Okay.
Yep. That's how we did it in years past. Sorry.
This is totally something that I expect Gino to do.
A little inside baseball.
All right, Pete, I think it's your turn to talk. Wow.
Yeah. So I honestly don't think I'm qualified to adjudicate this one. My pick is Outer Wilds. Again, because I didn't play Pokemon Sword or Shield. But I think like the way you're describing it, it seems like it kept what made Pokemon good and expanded it in a new and different direction. And in a certain sense, I'm not sure which one's more difficult, right? Like it's hard to turn a cruise ship. You know, like it's on its way. Institutions have a certain level of inertia that's hard to overcome. But I do think, you know, I like to default to the new, to the like the independent, and that's Outer Wilds. But like I said, I don't, you know, I'm not the expert here. I didn't play both.
Man, that moment when you realize that the sun continues to explode.
Oh man, the first time you see it, because like
Yeah.
it starts until you find out, like, oh, let me turn around and see what's going on with the sun at this moment for whatever reason.
Man, that moment is so good.
Yeah, and you don't even necessarily know what is causing it. Like, the first time I saw the sun explode, I thought it was because a comet had hit the sun. And I was like, oh, crap, I need to prevent that from happening next time. And then it turns out, no, it just will keep happening over and over and over again until you finish the game. There's a ton of just nuance in that world. Traveling every single inch of those planets and figuring out how they work is just such a treat. There are definitely some moments where the game is frustrating. You know, you might hit a dead end where you don't know exactly how to progress, but I think that overcoming that difficulty or finding ways forward is part of the joy of Outer Wilds. And there's usually a thread you can pull on, even if it's not the same thread. There are some moments where you just are kind of waiting for the clockwork to happen because you've done everything else, and that can be annoying, but there's not an experience like it. Pokemon Sword Shield is just, it's the best Pokemon game, I think. And it was the most fun I've had with a game all year. Like, I enjoyed Outer Wilds, and I will show that to other people, but Pokemon Sword and Shield is the game that I will buy for anyone, no questions asked, because I think everyone could enjoy it. It's a tough choice. So where is everyone sitting right now?
I'm Outer Wilds.
I'm Outer Wilds.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're also Outer
Yeah.
Wilds? Em?
I'm Sword and Shield by default, but given everything I've heard about Outer Wilds, I think it's a worthy cause to yield to.
All right. I think I'm fine with that because that game is special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the winner, Game of Our Year 2019, is Outer Wilds. Runner-up, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Which brings us to the end of Game of the Year. Let's go over the winners. Game of the Year 2019. The winner, Outer Wilds, with the runner-up, Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's so rare. Has this ever happened before?
What?
Oh, wow.
Where our game of the year has been a game that actually...
No. There was a year where
Detention won
won
Game of the Year and Game of Our Year, but we've never had the runner-up also be a game that came out in this year.
Yeah.
That's never happened before. Our 1-2 has never been.
You know, a lot of people have said that this was a weak year for games, and I have to disagree. I think
I think they're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Game of the Year 2019, Outer Wilds, runner-up, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Best comedy, Surgeon Simulator with runner-up, Butterfly Soup. That's great. Best horror, Return to the Obra Dinn with runner-up, Fatal Frame. Best drama, that's going to be Gree with runner-up, Life is Strange Before the Storm. Best action, Mega Man Battle Network 3 with runner-up, Bionic Commando. Best adventure, Disco Elysium with runner-up, Outer Wilds. Best character, Akarsha with runner-up, Ash. Worst character, Vaughn with runner-up, Penelo. They're a team in sucking. Best soundtrack, Final Fantasy VIII with runner-up, Gree. Prettiest game, Gree. Runner-up, Return to the Obra Dinn. Best performance/voice acting, Final Fantasy XII. Runner-up, Disco Elysium. Best mechanic, The Wild Area, Pokemon Sword Shield with words as mechanic, Baba is you. Runner-up. Biggest disrespected player's time, winner is Nier Automata, with runners-up, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 2, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, the square quadfecta of wasting your time. Best twist, The Sun Keeps Exploding, Outer Wilds, runner-up, deleting your game to save humanity, Nier Automata. Worst game of our year, 2019, Final Fantasy 2, with runner-up, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Worst story and or written dialogue, Bionic Commando, runner-up, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Biggest indictment of capitalism, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, runner-up, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Most replayable classic, Mega Man Battle Network 3, runner-up, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. Jean-Paul Sartre Memorial Award for game that best expresses the ultimate futility of the human condition. Winner is Rad. My Platypus Award for game that should not be. Winner is Final Fantasy II with runner-up Outer Wilds. M's Sheeple Award, most wildly overstated, overrated. Nier Automata. ZP's Help I'm Trapped in Sysiphean Torment Award, Final Fantasy XII with runner-up Final Fantasy II. And the winner, Game of Our Year 2019, Outer Wilds, runner-up, Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's been a great year, everyone. Thank you, everyone who's been listening to the show, everyone who's been supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/deeplistens. You've made this show sustainable, and thank you for that. Tell your friends if you're enjoying the show, and hopefully we can get this community even bigger. It's been a wild year. Any final thoughts on the year before we sign off?
Yeah, I think it was a far stronger year in games and the medium of games than a lot of people are giving it credit for.
I think you can see, too, the breadth of games that we played this year and that came out this year. I mean, if you're looking for something, there's really something for everybody at this point, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not all the big AAA titles anymore. And
it's not just Halo clones.
Halo or Modern Warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And any closing thoughts?
I came on a year ago, and ever since then, it's been fun. So, revisiting old classics, I got to play the games of my childhood again with Golden Sun and Mega Man Battle Network, and now it's in the books. So, I'm excited for next year.
Excellent. So it's another great year of the Trenchies, of the Marianas Trench Awards for deepness.
Man.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Deepness? Yeah. Is that, did you invent a word?
It's the technical term.
Very, very low.
Good.
They go far down.
Good work all around.
Excellent. So thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch with the show, email in. Tell us why our game of the year is great. I will hear no. I will hear nothing else.
Or wrong. We take input from all sides of the spectrum.
We take your feedback, send it directly to trash. You can send in your emails at deeplistenspod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got comment sections and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. We will see you again in 2019, bright and early, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed.
2019?
2020.
We're running it back. Doubling up.
Outer Wilds.
2020.
Gino invented a time machine. Oh, shit.
boy.
We're actually in Outer Wilds.
Yep.
Oh, that would be the worst year. Not this year. A different one. All right. Thanks, everybody. Till next time. Peace.